Okay, are we ready for the jury?
Yes, I believe so, Judge.
All right. Can bring in the jury.
Judge, the jurors are present and seated in jury box.
Okay, everybody raise your hand. You may stay seated. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth? Okay, you may put down your hands. Listen to my whole question. Please raise your hand if you got any information from any source regarding this case over the recess. I see no hands. Thank you very much. State, you may call your first witness.
They would call Jason Brazelton.
If any of you have any trouble hearing at any time, raise your hand. If we miss it, wave it more, because we want to make sure you can hear and there's a fairly loud.
You do swear or affirm that testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth of God.
I do. Thank you.
Step this way, have a seat, speak in a loud and clear voice for the court.
Whenever you're ready, Ms. Olney,
Thank you, Judge.
you're welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Brazelton.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Could you please state your name for the record?
Jason Brazelton.
And Mr. Brazelton, are you employed?
I'm self-employed.
Okay, how are you employed?
I have a law practice.
In St. Petersburg?
Yes.
And how long have you been so employed?
I've been doing my own thing for a year. I've been an attorney for 7 years.
And how, where do you live?
I live close to downtown in a neighborhood called Historic Uptown.
And would that be near 511 7th Street North in St. Petersburg?
Yes, right around the corner, actually.
I'd like to draw your attention. How long have you lived there?
I've lived there 3 years now.
And I'm going to be referring to October 23rd, 2010, a night when you made some observation and called the police. How long had you lived there prior to that incident?
I had just moved there, I think it was September of 2010.
And were you working at that time?
I was employed at a law firm.
And were you living alone there, or did you live with someone else?
I was living alone, and at the time I had a girlfriend that would stay over.
Let's talk about that night, October 23rd, 2010. Did you have an occasion to go out in the evening hours after dark for any reason in the neighborhood?
Yes, I would walk, at the time, my girlfriend and I's dog.
Okay. What kind of dog was that?
It was a small toy poodle. I remember it because the repetition of it sounded like gunfire, but the noise itself sounded like something else, like a rock hitting a tin roof. And my first instinct was I thought somebody was trying to break into. I have a garage apartment, and I thought somebody was trying to break in. So I almost immediately, within 5 minutes, I walked outside and kind of walked around my house.
And did you see anything unusual?
I didn't see anything, and I just went back in. So.
Okay. Had you heard gunshots there in the neighborhood prior to this?
I had not.
The night that you walked your dog, well, maybe it would help, Judge, if I could approach the witness.
Yes.
Judge, I am showing the witness what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit Number 1.
All right.
In looking at this, before we start talking about it, do you recognize this area?
I do.
And is this the area close to where you live?
Yes, it is.
And is this the area where you walked your dog?
It is.
And if I could have the witness step down and demonstrate.
Yes, ma'am.
where it's at. Yes, thank you. Mr. Brosnan, where do you live?
I live here.
And the residence we're talking about, 511 7th Street North, where is that?
That would be, this is 7th Street here. It's the Avenue North, which is the main drag, really, as you get onto Interstate 275. And the place where I saw, I showed my flashlight back into the two houses, big houses, is right here.
Okay.
And so, I don't know the exact address, I think that would be correct, 511. Sounds about right.
Okay, so what route did you take when you left your house that night?
Right, and I remember the route because it was a different route than what I normally take. I usually kind of just walk around the block this way, and for whatever reason, I just went a different way, and I walked around this way, and then head back down towards Fifth,
Okay.
and all the way around. And it was just a weird night altogether, but I didn't go back and see anything other than I just shone my light back there. I saw somebody laying there. I thought, I assumed at the time that it was a homeless person, and maybe my grounds went back.
Okay. Do you recall if anything had happened that made you shine your flashlight up in that location?
There was nothing specific that happened other than my dog had paused there, and it was, and I remember looking over and remembering it being very dark, and I had not, I guess I had not yet, being only there about a month or two, I hadn't yet maybe gone that route or noticed, maybe been there at night and noticed how dark it was back in between these two houses. And so that prompted me to shine my light back there, and I saw the guy, and it startled me, so I shut my light off pretty quick. And I was just thinking about this today, and actually normally I probably would have gone back there to see what was up, but I had my dog, the little toy poodle, which is, he would have been all over the place, and just not a normal thing if
Sure.
just having the dog with me. So.
And were you familiar with the house where this occurred, where you saw the person lying?
Yeah, somewhat familiar. I mean, just by being in the neighborhood. Yeah.
Sure. Could you tell, is it a vacant house? Was anyone living there?
At the time, it was vacant.
But at the time it was.
Yeah,
there
at
was
the time
not.
it was vacant. In fact, there's two houses, and both of them were vacant.
Next door to each other?
Yes.
If I could approach the witness room.
Yes.
I'm showing you what's been marked for identification, the State's Exhibit 7A. Does that look familiar to you?
It does.
And could you tell the jurors, tell the court what that is?
Yeah, this is the picture of the house to the left. There's another house to the right, and there's a small, it looks almost like an alley, but it's really just a space between the two places, not even really much for a yard. And that's where the guy who was to the right of this building here.
Okay. At this time, Your Honor, the state would move this into evidence as State's Exhibit 7A.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right. And did you say 7A or just 7?
7A.
Okay,
If
7A.
I could publish this.
Yes, ma'am.
If you could, Mr. Brosnan, step down and show the jurors. I know that this is, are we looking at the front of the house, the side of the house, or the?
Yeah, this is the front of the house.
And could you point, I know you don't see the whole entire house, but could you point to which side of the house that you saw the body?
over here to the right.
And in the back or front?
It was in the back. very small. Most of these lots are very small. So the back of the house really backs up to the back of the lot. And if the person was laying back, the very back of this lot, essentially. Right. There's a big vacant lot over here.
And is there a park in this location also?
Yes, there is.
Can you just kind of explain where that park would be?
It's hard to explain from looking at this photo, but maybe from the map I can show you.
Would that help?
Yeah. I think it's called the Millennium Youth Park, and it's located right here where these trees are.
So this is 7th Street.
Correct.
This is where you saw the body. So it's across 7th Street.
Across 7th Street, and there's this facility here, I think, is a battered women's facility or something, and there's a couple of apartments here, and then this is the park. Okay. So, west side of 7th.
Having seen what you thought to be someone possibly sleeping there.
Well, because it kind of surprised me, I just turned my light off and I kept walking. And when I got back to my place, I told my girlfriend about it at the time, and she, we kind of discussed it and agreed that I should call the non-emergency police line, and so that's what I did.
Okay. Shortly thereafter, were you aware of police activity there?
Yes, as soon, and not maybe like 10, 15 minutes later, I looked out, just glanced out the window, and I saw actually 2 officers walking down the street, and so that prompted me to go outside, and I looked down the street, and I saw the yellow tape, up, and obviously knew at that time that something more serious had happened than just a homeless person laying there. So I walked down and spoke to the officer and told him that I was the guy that called it in.
Okay. And told them what you have told the jurors
Yes.
here today?
Mm-hmm.
If I could have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am?
Nothing further.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
Yes, briefly. Good afternoon, Mr. Brazelton.
Good afternoon, Mr. Waluda.
Mr. Brazelton, how many shots did you hear that night?
I believe it was 4.
Or do you know, can you tell how long between the shots?
If I recall correctly, there was 1 shot, and then there was a repetitive 3 in a row.
Okay, how long after you heard the shots did you do your patrol?
Initially around my house,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was almost immediately. I just, because the dog had started barking, and my girlfriend looked at me like, what was that? So I just walked outside and looked around. I didn't see anything.
How about your patrol through the neighborhood where you end up passing the house?
That was approximately maybe a half hour to an hour afterwards.
Okay. Your Honor, grab the
Yes?
Your Honor, may the witness step down?
Yes, of course.
I ask you to show me one more time here. Where was the actual, the house where you shined the light down the alley?
It was actually, this is the house they showed the front picture of, and the, not alley, but the little space between the 2 vacant houses is right here.
So it's not on the back of the house, it's on the side of it.
On the side of the house is back. In other words, I wouldn't be able to see it if it was right behind the house, because the house was blocked, but it was to the side and back, right back.
Lou, you agree that you could see clearly from the road, you didn't have to go behind the house to see anything?
Well, you could see, not clearly because it was dark, and I wouldn't have seen him without the flashlight that I mentioned.
Okay. When you shone your flashlight behind her, did you see anything else? Shoes, gun, bag?
I mean, I saw, and this was the interesting thing, was that what I thought I saw was, and maybe it was just because of the homeless issue we've been having at the problem in the neighborhood at the time, I thought I saw what was an older white gentleman, which it turned out later after I, saw the news and everything that wasn't the case. And I guess the only explanation I would have for that is that was what my mind saw because of what I'd been dealing with at the time. So.
Okay. And did you have any weapons on you at the time?
I did not.
Just your mag light?
Just my mag light, yes.
Okay. And did you happen to see a scooter in the area?
I didn't see a scooter.
Anything else that caught your attention?
I think that's it.
Okay, no further questions.
Redirect?
No, Judge.
All right, is he excused?
Yes.
All right, you're free to go, sir. You're welcome. Next witness, please.
Yes, Judge. The State of Florida would call Officer Kurt Bradshaw.
Officer, step this way, please. Step right here. Face the close of the court. Raise your right hand and repeat the oath.
You do swear or affirm that testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Please step this way. Have a seat. Speak in loud and clear voice.
Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir. Could you please, to ladies and gentlemen of the jury, introduce yourself by stating your name?
Officer Kurt Bradshaw,
And Officer Bradshaw, who do you work for?
the City of St. Petersburg.
And in what capacity?
Right now, I'm assigned to our downtown unit.
As a police officer?
Yes.
All right. How long have you been assigned to the downtown unit?
About a year.
All right. And prior to that, where were you assigned?
I was community policing. Prior to that, I was patrol. Prior to that, I was street narcotics. And prior to that, I was patrol.
All right. So how long have you been with the agency?
Just under 10 years.
All right. And back in October of 2010, which of those units were you assigned to?
I was in Patrol District 2.
All right. And what is the District 2 patrol area?
Typically, it's referred to as our north side.
All right. Is that close to downtown?
Yes.
All right. Would that include the area of 7th Street and Earl Avenue?
Yes.
All right. Are you familiar with that area?
Yes.
And had you patrolled that area in the past?
Yes.
All right. And on the night of October the 23rd, 2010, were you alerted of a potential issue in that area?
Yes.
And did you in fact respond to that area?
Yes, I did.
And was this based on a citizen's complaint, non-emergency?
Yes, it was.
All right. When you arrived, do you arrive with anyone else?
Officer Roger McCauley was with me.
Was he riding in your vehicle or was he in another vehicle?
He was in a separate cruiser.
Describe for this jury what it is that you do when you arrive in this area.
It was a routine call for a subject that was supposedly sleeping behind a vacant house. We parked our cruisers on Earl, just east of 7th Street. Exited our cruisers, we walked up, it was real dark. Vacant house, no lights, large field north of the house. We had our flashlights out, walked up, approached the rear of the house, and walked up onto the crime scene.
Okay. Let's stop for a second. Judge, I think for the record, we've already shown defense counsel, which is marked as State's Exhibit Number 1 for identification. Officer Bradshaw, take a minute. Might help. Take a second to look at this and tell me if you recognize the area depicted in this picture.
Yes.
Are you familiar with it?
Yes.
All right. Does this describe the area of 7th Street and Earl Avenue, City of St. Petersburg?
Yes, it does.
All right, Judge, at this time, the state would seek to admit State's Exhibit 1 for identification as State's Exhibit 1.
Any objection?
No objection, Your
All
Honor.
right, it's admitted.
All right. Judge, I ask that the witness be allowed to step down just for the
Of course.
purposes of describing this. Mr. Bradshaw, I'm going to remind you that there are people in the corner, so try not to stand exactly in front of it. Just kind of point to where Earl and 7th is, just so we have a good idea again.
So 7th Street here, runs north and south, 5th Avenue, east and west, Earl Avenue, east and west, and then 6th Avenue.
Okay, this is primarily a residential area.
Yes.
And where did you park your patrol vehicle?
We were just east of 7th Street up here on our left.
Okay, and you described that there is empty lot. An empty lot, and then there is a vacant house, correct?
Correct.
ultimately we get to that vacant house.
Correct.
Let's just take one quick second. It's been described as true that there's a park in the area. Can you describe where the park is?
And the park is right here where the trees are.
Thank you. Now, you were describing for this jury that you parked on Earl and then walked up to the residence there next to the empty lot.
Right.
Did you walk through the empty lot?
Yes.
Okay, so the house, it faces 7th Street.
Yes.
So as you're approaching from which direction?
The north.
All right? And is there a backyard to this house?
No.
All right. What's behind this house?
There's just a concrete walkway.
All right. Kind of for lack of a better term, an alleyway behind the residence.
Yes.
All right. As you're walking down, can you see something back there?
It's very dark. We just have a limited view of what we can see with our flashlight. As we're getting closer and closer, your flashlight shines 20 feet in front of you or whatever. We first start seeing articles, a hat, some sneakers, sandals. Eventually we see the subject, and there's also a gun laying there with the articles before we get to the subject.
What did you think when you saw the gun?
This wasn't just a normal routine call of a subject sleeping anymore.
Could you tell whether or not the individual laying there had any injuries to him?
Yes.
And based on your training, what did you believe them to be?
Deceased.
All right. Could you tell whether or not those were gunshot wounds?
Eventually, yes.
All right. But initially, you could just see what?
I could see a circular blood mark in his chest on his shirt.
And the individual that was laying there, is he a black male or a white male?
Black male.
Okay. Your Honor, for the record, I'm showing defense counsel what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibits 9H and 9I. Officer Bradshaw, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's 9H and 9I. Let me know when you've recognized them.
Okay.
You recognize them?
Yes.
And what are they?
It's pictures depicting the scene as we walked up.
As you walked up.
Yes.
And does it contain the items for which you saw laying about the area?
Yes.
Judge, at this time, the state would seek to admit 9H and 9I as such.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, 9H and 9I are admitted.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
Yes, sir?
Officer Bradshaw, I'm going to show you, first I'd like to show you what's been admitted as 9H. I'm going to ask you to look over your left shoulder. Give me 1 second, I'll adjust. All right. You described that you were walking up the alleyway from the rear of the residence, correct?
Correct.
Is this the alleyway in which you approached?
Yes.
Okay? It appears that this is kind of an L shape or the intersection of two alleyways.
Yes.
All right? And there are fences marking the end of the territory, or end of the property?
Right.
All right. And describe for the jury what it is you saw and where you saw it as represented in this photograph. It would help standing up, you could do that.
This is actually from the north. If you were down here where the picture's being taken from the north, you're looking south. It's a good depiction of how it was. It's camouflage. You can see it's still fairly dark. And as we're walking up with our flashlights out, first we start seeing the shoes and everything. We see the gun. Here's a subject laying here by the wall.
Okay, he's laying back there. Kind of a quarter wall, quarter size, maybe
Yeah.
a foot or two? Okay. And on the other side of that wall is another wooden fence.
Yes.
And how is he positioned between that wall and that fence?
He's laying on his left side. He has his left arm, his left arm extended out over his head. His feet are towards the east. His left hand, which is out, would be pointing towards the west. His head is towards the west.
Let me show you what's been added as the state's exhibit 9I. This is kind of that bend in the elbow or that bend in the L as we talked about, correct?
Yeah, this is the same alleyway except for where we're photographers to the west. We're looking east.
Okay. And that's how the items were when you found them, correct?
Correct.
You mentioned the individual laying there had injuries. Could you determine, based on your training and experience, whether or not he was alive?
He appeared to be deceased. It was pretty evident he was deceased.
What was so evident about it?
He had blood dripping from his mouth and his nose. He had glazed eyes. He had no movement at all. When we first got there, I lifted up his shirt to check to see if, in fact, he was shot. And he had a little bit of rigidity to him.
Okay. And you observed bullet wounds on him?
Yes.
Okay. Based on this not being a homeless man in an alleyway, and this in fact being a individual deceased because of gunshot wounds, did you alert other people such as fire personnel, fire rescue, detectives, and other members of the city of St. Petersburg?
Yeah, I immediately called for rescue to have rescue come by, and also my street supervisor, who in turn notified the homicide division, and they also responded.
Okay, did you remain on scene for at least some period of time after?
Yes,
Approximately how long were you there?
probably a couple hours.
All right. And while you're there, did those individuals you call respond, such as the fire rescue and detectives and forensic techs?
Yes,
Did you participate in what's called as a neighborhood canvass?
yes.
Generally explain what that is to the jury.
You go around to all the houses in the area, make contact with anybody that's there, wake people up, see if they heard anything, saw anything out of the ordinary, get their statements, their information, where they were. So,
During that neighborhood canvass, did it become apparent to you that there was a motor scooter that may be out of place?
yes,
All right. Where was the motor scooter located at?
it was in the driveway across the street from the residence where this occurred.
And that would be just south of the park.
Yes.
Okay, that driveway leads to some apartments.
I think it's a single-family house, I think, or some kind of house.
And next to that house, is there a facility there?
Yes,
Okay. It's a facility for battered women?
some type of woman's shelter, yeah.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to investigate this scooter?
Yes,
And when I say investigated, did you look at it? Did you take note whether or not it had a vehicle tag?
yes, I did.
And as a police officer, do you have access to databases which you can enter such information in as far as motor vehicle tags and learn potential addresses for things?
Yes.
All right. What's that called?
We call it David.
David. Okay. And you just input a tag number and it'll give you potential registered number.
Yeah, it gives the registered owner information, the vehicle information, year, VIN, so forth.
Market States Exhibit 7B. Officer Brash, I'll take a second to look at States Exhibit 7B. Recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And is that the motor scooter for which you saw?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, at this time, the state would seek to admit 7B as such.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you. It's admitted.
Kind of dark. Officer Bradshaw, based on this tag, did you come to learn who the registered owner of this vehicle was?
Yes, I did.
And who was that?
Shannon Griffin?
All right. When you enter this information in the database, does it tell you an address?
Yeah.
All right. Does this database also have photographs, like driver's license photographs, associated with the person?
Yes, it does.
Did you have an opportunity to view that photograph?
Yes.
And were you able to make any type of preliminary, or did you come to a preliminary opinion as to whether or not the person who this motor vehicle was registered to was somehow related to the dead man you found in the alleyway?
The subject that was deceased in the alleyway.
May I have a moment?
Yes, sir.
No further questions, Judge?
Thank you. Cross-examination. You're welcome.
Deputy, good afternoon, sir.
How are you?
Good, sir. Thank you. Deputy, when you arrived at the scene and you noticed that this individual appeared to be dead, you never did check his pulse, though, to confirm that he was, in fact, dead at the
No,
time?
I did not.
Okay. In fact, you called paramedics, and I would imagine it took several minutes before they actually arrived.
Yeah.
All right. Now, you mentioned this neighborhood sweep. You went, you knocked on doors, and I think you spoke to approximately 13 people?
It was a fair number. I don't know exactly what number without counting them, but
All right. And there was nothing significant in terms of what they had told you?
no.
All right. And then you also, I think, knocked on 6 doors, and there was no answer, at least at those 6 particular doors, correct?
Okay.
Is that your recollection?
There were a fair number that I didn't get an answer.
All
I
right.
don't know exactly how many there were.
And to your knowledge, you were never directed to go back and follow up with those same 6 people to see if they had seen anything that night?
I was not, no.
All right. And you were not the lead detective. That would have been someone else's responsibility?
Correct.
All right. The fact that you did this neighborhood sweep, was that your call, or was that at the direction of someone else?
It was at the direction of the homicide sergeant, Sergeant Skinner.
All right. And once again, Sergeant Skinner never told you to go back and, hey, follow up on those 6 people. Maybe they saw what actually happened.
No.
All right. Now, specifically the photographs that we observed, you didn't take those photographs, correct?
I did not.
All right. That was someone else's job.
That was the forensic technician.
All right. Your job would have been just, again, respond to the scene, do the neighborhood check, and then you probably handed the case over to the lead detective.
Yes.
All right. As far as the photographs, one thing, or at least in terms of what you identified, you saw the young man who appeared to be dead, at least at the time. Isn't it true his pants were also pulled down below his waist?
They were.
All right. Now, as far as, did you notice anything significant other than the gun and the body? For example, did you notice there was a condom present?
I didn't notice.
All right. The park, how far is the park in relation to where you were?
It's catty corner from it. I mean, maybe 200 feet.
All right. And once you notified your supervisor, I take it again, you turned it over, and then you left the area? You didn't have any other involvement in this investigation?
That's correct.
All right. John, if I could have a moment?
Yes, sir.
Deputy, thank you so much.
Redirect?
Yes, sir. Officer Bradshaw, these neighborhood houses you went and checked out, you knocked on the door and no one was home.
Correct.
And this is sometime not too long after you arrived on the scene, I imagine.
Probably a half hour or so.
You had the cruisers there on the street, correct?
Yes.
And Officer McCauley's cruiser was there as well.
By that time, there were a fair number of cars, probably at least 6 or so.
So had someone wanted to talk to the police, you guys were present there on the scene, correct?
Sure.
Let me have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes?
Just for the record, I'm showing defense counsel 5D. Officer Bradshaw, I'm going to show you what's been marked as identification 5D. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes,
Okay. What does that photograph show?
that's the deceased subject.
All right, is that in the position, in the manner in which you found him?
Yes.
Judge, at this time, the state would seek to admit 5D.
Is it D or B? I'm sorry.
D, excuse me.
D is in dog?
Yes, Judge.
All right. Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, it's admitted.
Officer Bradshaw, if you look over your left shoulder, this is, I guess, standing along that wall, that little short wall we talked about.
Yes.
And you're asking questions about whether or not his pants were down. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Would you agree with me? It's his, I guess, his jeans that were down,
Yeah.
but he still has his underwear up, correct?
Right, correct.
All right. And when you arrived, I mean, again, we kind of talked about the injuries, the bullet holes. While you were there, they confirmed him dead on arrival. didn't they?
Yes.
Officer Bradshaw, when you, I guess, participate in a case like this, do you prepare a report?
Yes, I do.
And in preparing a report, is it assigned a unique City of St. Petersburg report number?
Yes.
And is that the report number that everything's documented under as it relates to this case?
Yeah, every other report that any officer does is done as a follow-up to this initial.
And if we mark evidence or evidence collected, it's going to have that report number as part of it, correct?
Right.
What was the report number assigned to this case?
It was 2010 70722.
And as part of your report, do you note what time it is that you arrived on scene?
I believe I do. I'd have to refer to my report.
If it would help refresh your memory, please do.
Yes, it says I was dispatched to the call at 23:13 hours, which would be 11:13 p.m., and I arrived at 11:23 p.m.
No further questions, Judge.
Okay. Is he excused or standby? Building,
Yes, Judge.
but you're on standby.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next witness, please.
The state would call Douglas Bolden.
Your step is right, please. Right here. Face the clerk of the court, raise your right hand and repeat the oath.
You do swear or affirm that testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
Ms. Webster, have a seat, pull yourself up and speak in the loud and clear voice, please.
Whenever you're ready, Miss Olney.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bolden.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name for the record?
Douglas Bolden.
And do you live in St. Petersburg, Mr. Bolden?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you lived here?
13 years.
Do you have occasion to have known a Shannon Griffin?
Yes, he's my cousin.
How long have you known him? Or maybe I should better phrase that. Did he live down here in St. Petersburg?
I'll answer both. I've known him all of his life. He lived here for the past several years before he was murdered.
Okay. Did he live with you?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that at 9100 Dr. Martin Luther King Avenue South
Yes, ma'am.
in apartment 1008?
Yes, ma'am.
Or I'd like to draw your attention back to October 23rd, 2010.
Yep.
Was he living with you then?
Yes.
And do you recall the evening of October 23rd, 2010?
I do.
Could you tell the jurors, was he home that evening?
Yes, he was.
What was he doing?
Well, he was home. It was actually, it was the first day of his 1-year celebration. He had just finished working for Walmart 1 year, and he was starting his vacation. So he was real bubbly. He was really excited about earning his first week off, and so he was running around the house. He was planning on going out. You know, we were talking about going to the mall, and then he had told me that he had met someone online, and next he pretty much blew me off and said that he was gonna, go see a young lady, and that was it. Yeah, he was preparing for that, and from there he got dressed, put on his best gear, and I mean, all I remember from the ending time of seeing him was him smelling like a bunch of cologne. It was just my whole house had cologne in it.
Okay. How long had he lived with you here in Pinellas County?
It was almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years?
Yep,
And was that the last time that you saw Shannon?
it was. It was the very last time.
What is the next thing that happened?
He told me, like I said before, he was like, "Hey, I'm going out. I met a young lady, and personally, I was excited for him because he was someone that rarely ever went out. I mean, he was someone, he went to work, he never missed work. I was so proud of him because when I brought him here, I brought him over here not just as a relative, but as a mentor. And he came over here, and before he came over, he was pretty much, we have a farm over in Mississippi.
Is that where he lived prior to
Yes,
coming
where he
here?
lived prior, and he was just, ever since Hurricane Katrina, he was kind of shell-shocked. He just really just went into himself. He had left school, and when I brought him over here, I was really excited to give him the opportunity for a fresh breath of air. He was able to get his GED. All within that year, 2 years, he got his GED, got a job at Walmart. I mean, I even remember when I walked with him to get that application at Walmart and seeing him get the job and how excited. It was like watching my own son, bubbly and excited. He got his job. He worked for it. He paid for it. He took a loan out just to get a scooter, and then just the excitement that he had. And just to bring all that together and just to watch, because again, he would never leave the house. And I was just like, and maybe, in hindsight, I wonder if I should have thought more about, saying, be careful of anything. But I just so excited just to see him have a friend, to go meet someone, to have a friend.
Let me ask you this,
Yeah.
Mr. Bolden. Was it unusual for him to go out with friends in the evening?
Yeah, very unusual.
Okay.
Very unusual.
Judge, if I could approach the witness.
Yes?
I am showing you what's been already entered into evidence as State's Exhibit B. Do you recognize what that is?
Yes, that's his scooter.
That's his scooter?
Yep, his
How
brother's
long had he had that scooter?
I'd want to say about 6 months.
And when he left that night, did he leave on the scooter?
Yes, he did. That was his means of transportation.
If I could have a moment now.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we approach, Your Honor?
Yes? anytime, I was wondering, I was watching you to see if you would have a hard time. Anytime the people at this end have a hard time seeing what's on TV, I give you permission to get up and move to a place where you can see, okay? So anytime. And if you need us to stop so you can do that, usually just moving over just a little bit, even you all standing up and moving over and you all just a little bit, but move wherever you need to.
Judge, if I could approach the witness?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 13 for identification, Mr. Bolden.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you look at these items and tell me if you can identify what they are? First, just tell me if you know what they are.
Yeah, cell phone and wallet, and this was definitely my cousin's wallet. His ID.
This wallet that he carried every day?
Yes, it was.
Cell phone also?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, this time the State would move into evidence Exhibit 13. Defense has no objection.
No objection.
Okay, so 13 is both the cell phone and the wallet? Is
Yes,
one?
and there's not a new number on here, Judge. I'm going to have to give it to Madam Clerk. I don't know if we have
So
a
should we
third.
do a 13A and a 13B, maybe? Okay, so why don't you give her back the, is the
She's
wallet?
got the 13A now.
Okay. Okay.
And 13 would be the wallet.
Okay, so let's do 13A and B.
Okay, then we have a C2.
Okay, that's fine.
C. So at this time, Your Honor, the State would move into evidence 13A, which would be the wallet. 13B, 13A is the cell phone, I apologize.
Okay,
13B would be the wallet.
okay.
And 13C, if you could please tell the jurors what that is.
Yes, my cousin's license. Shanann's license.
And at this time, Your Honor, the State would move in the driver's license into evidence as 13C.
All right. Any objection?
No objection. Is 13B the wallet, does it have any contents, or is it?
It does have contents.
Then maybe we should call it a composite exhibit.
And maybe while we're talking about it, if you could tell the jurors what items you find in the wallet.
His IDs, his SunTrust,
Speak up a little bit, sir,
Oh,
with
I'm
this
sorry.
fan. We want to make
his
sure everybody.
IDs,
What
his
kind of ID?
Finish Line Club, he loves sneakers.
Okay.
SunTrust Bank, I still get the statements at my house. GameStop, his Walmart ID, which was really special to him. This is something that I can remember him just showing this off when he would walk around. This was ever his first job. This is the machine, the card for where we went to get his scooter, where he actually took out a loan to buy a scooter. He was so proud to buy his own transportation. And this is the card, so whenever he had to have it maintenance, he had it in his wallet.
Okay.
He still carries it. Well, he did. Another Walmart card. I think that's it.
So that would be State's exhibit, composite exhibit B.
All right. So, any objection to 3A, 3B, and 3C?
No objection.
I mean, not 3, what was it? 13. All right, they're admitted then.
Did you have occasion later that night to speak to law enforcement?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell the jurors how that occurred and what time you think that was.
I want to say maybe about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I received a knock at the door, which shook me, my fiance actually went to the door. We had no clue what was going on. I actually, at the time, thought Shannon was home in bed because rarely did he ever go out. I mean, he worked night shift, but when he came home, he slept during the day, played PlayStation, and just didn't go out much. So when he went out earlier that night, I literally thought he was back home in bed by like 11 or 12.
So did you ultimately go to the door?
Yes, I went to the door, answered the door, and it was 2 officers. I believe one was named Officer Skinner. I don't remember the other guy's name. And they alerted me they asked me, number one, did I know a Shannon Griffin? And I told them, yes, I did. He was my cousin, and that's when they let me know that there was a bad incident that happened, and that there had been a murder, I believe that was their word.
And did they ask you if you had any information involving Shannon that evening?
Yeah, they did ask me when did he leave, when did he go out, what was his intentions.
Much of this now is hearsay.
Sustained.
Did you give officers Shannon's phone number?
Yes, I did.
If I can have a moment.
Yes, ma'am?
Nothing further.
All right, thank you. Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Bolden.
Good afternoon.
How old was Shannon?
At the time, I believe he was 21, going on 22.
Okay. And you indicated that he had been living with you for about 2 years?
Yes, sir.
And you're his uncle, correct?
No, I'm his cousin.
I'm sorry, your cousin?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And your fiance also resided together with you?
Yes, sir.
You indicated that Shannon was employed at Walmart.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And had been there approximately 1 year?
Yep, he had just celebrating his 1-year anniversary.
Walmart, is that considered, to your knowledge and discussions with Shannon, to be a drug-free workplace?
Yes, sir.
So they would test Shannon if he were taking any kind of illicit substances?
I'm objecting to speculation.
Well, he can answer if he knows the answer.
I believe so.
Okay. Did you ever know Shannon to be a marijuana smoker?
No.
Okay. So you don't believe for a minute that Shannon was consuming marijuana, do you?
No.
Okay. And to your knowledge, he's never done it in your presence, never talked about it, never discussed it in a way in which led you to believe he was a consumer of marijuana?
No, sir.
And in fact, you indicated the purpose of his visit appeared to be kind of romantic in nature, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Did you know anything at all about the girl he was going to see?
No, not at all. I just seen him sparkling like a kid going on his first date. And to me, that was the part that I kind of chuckled at, because it was like watching my own son, like, head out to meet a girl, which he didn't do very much.
Would this been the first so-called date that he had with this girl, to your knowledge?
As far as I knew.
And you had indicated before that you believed he met this individual online, correct? I
believe so. Yep, that's what he told me.
Did you ever talk with him about the dangers of online communication?
I sure didn't, man. And in hindsight, I wish I did.
Understood. And you yourself had no contact with the other individual he was communicating with?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you ever look back at his, does he have a computer? Did he have one?
We have a home computer. Was there?
Did he use it?
Yes, he did.
Did the police go through that to see if there were any communications on that?
I know I showed it to him. I'm not sure how far they went through it, or I'm not really sure in how the in-depth of it. I know I gave him his cell number, and I also showed him where the computer was, and I told him he had said he had met someone online.
And they never took the computer into evidence, to your knowledge?
No, not that I remember.
All right, sir, I don't have any other questions. Thank you very much. I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you, sir.
Any
Nothing
questions?
further, Judge.
All right, excused or on standby?
He can be excused. Oh, yes. You can be excused.
Okay.
Okay.
If we could approach for one moment after he leaves the courtroom, Judge.
Yes. To be a little bit longer, and I understand you want a comfort break. From time to time, the parties stipulate to something. When the parties agree, this is a stipulation, that certain facts are true, that is called a stipulation of fact. You must accept stipulated facts as having been proven. However, the significance of these facts, as with all facts, is for you to decide. In this case, the stipulated fact that you must accept as true is that the deceased in this case is in fact Shannon Griffin, and it is not necessary to make any further identification. And this has been agreed to by Mr. Trevina of the defense and Mr. Labruzzo of the state. So you're to accept as true that the deceased in this case is Shannon Griffin, and that it is not necessary to make any further identification. Do you understand? Okay, please file that in the court file. All right, I'm going to give you a 20-minute break. Don't move yet. Put your pads and pens down. That gives you time if you want to go downstairs and get yourself a soda out of the machine or something, or stretch your legs. If you want to stay in the jury room, you can, but we will be going, quite a bit longer this afternoon. So feel free to take advantage of the break. So it's 2:45. We'll have them back in judicial reception at 5 minutes after 3. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you in 20 minutes.
Judge, the jurors out in training court.
Okay. Anything else we need to address before the break?
I don't believe so, Judge.
All right. Thank you. All right, 20 minutes.
All rise, please. Court is in recess, 20 minutes, according to the courtroom clock.
That was instantaneous.
Yeah, yeah, it's called Wild Upon Trial.